Meeting to order then. Let's see here. So even though we don't need quorum, we're still gonna do a sign-in sheet, or is there no?
Yeah, there's a sign-in sheet
Okay.
up there. If you haven't filled it out yet, please just grab it and put your initials on so we can keep attendance properly. Yeah, we can pass the drill.
Okay. I noticed so we did keep public comment on the agenda. I don't see anyone here. Is there anyone online that wanted to make public comment? All right, hearing none, then let's move on to members' interest and future topic requests. So anyone present with? Nope. See this. I assume that's it. There was two sheets. The second sheet is just the continuation of the list. Is that okay? Okay. Let's see. I just had a couple things, but some of them will come up in our discussion later. Wanted to apologize for last month's meeting. We didn't technically run over, but I think some of the speakers went longer than was appropriate, and some of their content, I think, veered off of the interests of this committee. So I apologize for that. Ben and I have talked about it. I wasn't sure what expectations were set with speakers, so I didn't want to start cutting people off who were, volunteering their time and had great presentations. But that's something we're going to work on doing a better job. Make sure speakers, hey, keep your topics, focused on bicycle pedestrian activity, not everything related to, to your subject matter expertise. Secondly, try and keep presentations in general to kind of this 10, maybe 15 minutes. I think there's going to be some exceptions. There's going to be some projects where I think we want to dig deep and it's appropriate for them to go longer. But I think in general, when someone's giving a status update on the project, we'll try and keep it to that. So anyway, apologies. We'll do better. There was also some concerns raised last meeting about SharePoint access. I was one of them. I've since verified I was able to get everything. I don't know if something was changed or if it's hit or miss, but is anyone else still having problems?
I haven't gone back to look, but I have had issues in the last couple of months of the agenda comes out and I want to pre-look at the materials and it just blocks me, and I haven't tried to email anyone. I just figured I'll wait for the meeting, but I'll keep my eye out for the next.
Yeah, keep an eye on that. I had similar problems, but when I checked with this month, everything was fine and I could access everything. So hopefully, yeah. So please do speak up. Actually, it is good for us to, when we have time, to pre-read material. It also is helpful to me to know, is the material all aligned with what we talk about? So if I've looked at it in advance, I can help, perhaps, advise the presenters on the topics that might be most of interest. Let's see here. So I also mentioned last month about bike rodeos. This was a request from Sidewalk Stompers about getting some support for their bike rodeos. I actually picked up on Brent saying they do some of that here. I've had some conversations with Ben. I don't know if you've had a chance to follow up with, I think some of the ideas came from Lisa Silva. I'm not sure if I don't think Lisa's online. I'll say what my view is, that actually running bike rodeos is probably outside the scope of this committee, which is an advisory committee to the TPO board. Okay. I think we struggle enough to do that function, getting in-person quorum and in general participation. Ben and I've done some analysis on attendance. I'll talk about that in a minute too. But roughly we're at, 35% attendance. And if we remove vacancies, so just members that are active, we're about 50%. That's in-person attendance. It's higher when we look at people participate online, but anyway, struggling to get that. That's and we have a lot of vacancies, which we'll talk about as well. So our number one challenge is not even necessarily improving in-person attendance of our members. it's filling our vacancies because we have a fixed quorum at 9. It doesn't matter. So even if you have an excused absence or participant on the web, doesn't help us. It helps us from participation and involvement, but it doesn't help us get quorum. So, so our number one, challenge, I think, is filling vacancies. But so back to the bike rodeo idea. My view is probably not something that's makes sense for the committee to take on. I do think the committee is a good source of volunteers for those things. And I think Emily is going to come and present, perhaps, did we lose? Let's keep going. I'm probably going to present at our August meeting, recruiting people for the World Car Free Day, but she also might say some things about the bike route. So I think that's certainly appropriate. That's a good source of volunteers. I wouldn't mind offline, Brent, chatting with you about some of the things you guys do, because personally, like to be involved in that even outside the BPAC membership. But
Yeah, if it's helpful, we are exploring building out our own set of materials and figuring out the training, like facilitation side of the rodeos to host within. So we're talking with the basically how those were coming from theirs, or if it's something that could be held or hosted underneath the police department side or under the Parks and Rec side of it. So we're still exploring it. Nothing's final, but they kind of, instead of having to constantly ask for support in other organizations outside, I think it's something material wise, it's a pretty simple material list. It's really more about getting the facilitators who are
Hey, Wade, any ideas?
Yeah, he needs to restart the surface in the Plan Hillsborough room, unfortunately. Good evening, Jonathan.
Hey Wade, how you doing?
Hi, Mr. Forbes.
I'm doing
Good,
great.
Gail.
I'm sitting on the porch in North Carolina looking out at some mountains.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
That's yeah, I'm puppy sitting for my daughter. I'm in Pittsburgh this week, and she's attending a conference.
Hi, can everyone hear this? I'm sorry, we just had the call crash on our end for a moment.
Thank you, Ben. You may need to restart the surface.
Dale, can you hear us?
Yes, we can. Can you
Wade?
hear us?
Let me check the instructions.
Apparently, they can't hear us.
You need to have your
Well, let's keep going. I mean, I think it's most.
camera out.
Hey, Wade, you don't by chance have Daniel's number handy, do you?
Yeah, but I'll also text Ben and tell him to restart the surface. Thanks.
Okay.
I can try texting Brent as well.
Kids that are walking and biking to school. But they want them up.
Other than that, Wade, family's doing well?
Yeah, everyone's great. Just I took this week remote and just really happy to be with the family and enjoying the mountains. The weather is a heck of a lot better here. I mean, it's highs in like the low 80s, and Yeah, lows in the 60s. So I really can't complain.
Yeah, I took, my daughter's got two dogs, and I took the older one. The puppy is literally 8 weeks old. She got him, of course, she didn't plan on getting him, and it was like, Dad, can you come up here real quick, type of thing, because I gotta go to pizza. And so, I'm up here. It was 61 this morning.
Oh my gosh.
61.
Wow. That's not bad.
Because at home,
We
I
we
didn't.
saved
I built
we saved about a 5 or 8 pound pug puppy out of the road up here the other day, and we almost took it home, but thought better of it. The other dog that was with it running around in the middle of the highway ran. Once I grabbed the pug, the other dog ran back to its house, and that's where it belonged, so we knew where to go.
Yeah.
So with the temperatures you guys are talking about, I really am very jealous because I'm here in Florida with thunderstorms this afternoon, and our most recent rescue has a real problem with thunder.
Oh,
Ooh,
So I
fun.
spend about a half an hour on the couch with him because he pants so hard. I think he's going to hyperventilate, and he crawls up on your lap, and all he wants to do is be held. He can't stay still. He's a nervous wreck. I put in the PSS channel. I don't know if anybody's monitoring it, Wade.
I don't know either, and I wouldn't expect much from that. Ben texted that he had just gotten the notification that the pizza was there, so he's running down to get pizza, and we'll restart the surface
Excellent.
once he gets back up. Timing is everything, you know.
Rock and roll. Anyway, I'm hoping somebody sees it. I tried calling Daniel's number, but it went to voicemail. So, and I've got an out of state number, so he's not going to recognize the exchange anyway.
I wouldn't worry about it too much. And I'm sorry, Jonathan, that you were less able to participate. I was actually about to put in the chat about because David is interested in the bike rodeos, and I mean you've been involved with many of them, Jonathan, and so have I. But we have to get back in touch with the police department and sheriff really about that, I think.
yeah, but I got the impression, I think at the last one, and John Kubicki was it no, John, he and I were there, and we got the impression that the police or sheriff's office really didn't want any assistance from us. So we'll do that. But I mean, there's the World Car Free Day now,
Right.
and Christina Costa is always looking for assistance, and we can probably even have a table. I was going to plan on bringing that up. We could maybe have a table at the end.
While we are chatting, and since this is being captured in the recording, I'll just say that that's a good idea. The World Car Free Day, as well as bike to work days or month, or sorry, May is Florida Bike Month, or no, March is Florida Bike Month, and May is National Bike Month. I don't know. We whatever it is, but getting
Yes,
involved
that is
with
correct.
getting involved with some of those things might be a way to
Yeah, because there were a number of tables at the one. Because I helped lead the ride for Bike to Work Day from Midtown, and there's a number of tables there. And I know Disco Mike was representing one of the newer shops, whatever shop that was.
But that's the other approach.
And
So,
I don't know, maybe
okay.
It's good to be back. Can everyone hear us?
Yeah, we can hear
now.
you.
Right. Well, apologies, you missed a lot of, I think, good discussion, at least putting some ideas out there. But wait, that was it from me for members' interest, future topic requests. John and Sophia, thank you for joining us. Do you have any, we're actually, well, there's been a lot of discussion. We haven't really started on the status reports yet. So any members' interest, future topic requests, announcements?
Well,
something? And
yeah,
so Jonathan,
Yeah, I think I jumped in here and you guys were talking about participation in the bike rodeo, and Wade had put in the chat box how the BPAC used to provide volunteers during the bike rodeo on the kids' Gasparilla. And that
John,
kind
your
of,
audio is not great. I don't know if it's the speakers in here or.
it may be, I'm using a earbud type of approach here. I could try to use the, anyways. It may be the speakers in there too. We could probably see about reaching out to our law enforcement contact to see if that's involved. If there's interest in having that occur again, as well as I think the most recent bike to work experience with a bunch of tables there at Gaslight Park. Whether or not we want to have a table there, as well as do we want to have a table at the Critical Mass event during World Car Free Day, because there was a lot of other organizations there, and I think the TPO actually had a table there, and we could actually be right there alongside. But that's what I have.
Okay, no, thanks. Those are good. I'm not sure I understood all of them, but maybe you could put them in email. Just the audio wasn't great, but I picked up a few of them. But if you could put them, well, either in the chat here or an email or something.
Yeah.
I can add on. I think, Jonathan, the first one was talking about how we used to, BPAC used to help facilitate the bike rodeo at the Gasparilla Kids Parade. I participated that a couple times. I know Wade did as well. That was a cool event. So trying to get back into that, Jonathan, is that what you were kind of looking for? Yep, I would agree, and I would help volunteer for that too. So
Yeah,
it was fun. I don't know. I think you were saying Critical Mass having a
Critical.
booth up there, and then the other one was Gaslight Park. Was there something related to that?
The bike to work event.
Bike to work.
oh, yeah, yep.
Yeah, the Gasparilla Kids Parade Bike Rodeo was a fun event.
Okay, no, awesome, all great ideas. I think part of it is helping sidewalk stompers with ideas and with volunteers and how other organizations are handling this. And then the other one is there some role that the TPO can play that I think is appropriate and is aligned with with our mission. So, okay.
David, I had one other, and I'm sorry about the audio, that I was kind of remotely following a chat / Zoom meeting with the League of Cycling Instructors, and they're also looking at the same challenge on how they can also be more representative or have a clear presence in the state of Florida. So there's that challenge going on there. I could possibly explore that a little bit more separately, but that's something I'll put that in the chat box too.
Okay. No, I like that too. Thanks, John. All right. Anything else? All right. Okay, so we don't have we're not approving last month's minutes, so I assume that'll be done at the August meeting. So next is status report. So we really had two things on the workshop agenda, but please treat this pretty informally. These are both pretty open-ended topics. So the first one was to review the top 10 locations. So everyone who there's a couple new people, but last year we went through this exercise of kind of identifying a bunch of potential areas of improvement for bike and pedestrian infrastructure, and kind of divide and conquer, did some presentations, and then voted to narrow it down to a list of 10. So what we wanted to do tonight is just revisit that. So Ben, right on cue. Ben has as some updates on, I think our thoughts are, let's look at the status. Some of these projects have moved into, action, beyond our, I don't know if we influenced any of them or not, but some of them there's progress on. Other ones are being considered, and then we can discuss, for any of those projects, if there's, additional work we want to revisit on this, but.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks, David. I'll run through them, and everybody feel free to grab some pizza while I'm on it. Let's see.
I'm not going to be shy.
Okay, so as you all may remember, 2 years ago, we adopted this top 10 list of dangerous locations or intersections that the committee would target its advocacy towards. And I just went through each location now to get a sense of where they stand and what potential openings there might be. So for the first one, you all may remember Florida Avenue north of Violet Street. South of that segment of the road, there's a dedicated bicycle lane. But north of Violet Street, when the road becomes a two-way roadway, that
Benner?
bicycle lane.
Sorry, are you presenting the list or sharing the list? I just don't see.
Oh, yeah, I'm trying to share screens, but it's not showing. I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
Section. It's not displayed. So,
Ben, is the list saved somewhere that I can get it and share?
yeah, let me. I sent it to all the BPAC members, but let me think for a second. I could DM it to you. Would that work? Yeah, I'll send it in the chat. Okay.
Okay.
How that is glitching up. So obviously that's windy.
I was thinking, no one's coming to me if this keeps it.
Is it in the podium or do you have it on a thumb drive?
I just sent it in the meeting chat. So see if that works.
I'm not seeing it.
Very weird. And I'm sharing my screen on the laptop and it's not showing that. Let me try exiting the meeting and re-entering.
Okay, hang on. I think I got it. Okay.
Great.
Anything?
Let's see.
Shut up for a second.
I gave it one more try. Great.
Does anybody see my screen at this point?
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, if you can just zoom in a bit, that would be perfect.
Okay, sure.
And Ben, can you dismiss the recording note?
Oh, yeah.
On
good
podium.
catch.
Not getting my controls to zoom. Hang on. Nope, I don't wish to do that. Not getting my controls at the bottom of the document to zoom in because this is through Teams.
Well, I left
be fine.
the meeting at reach point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me see if I can share it one more time. Oh, cool, we have it, those were great.
Okay.
Okay, great. So Florida Avenue, north of Violet Street. This was the first one on our list. And there's no bicycle lane north of Violet. So we proposed the bicycle lanes be used correction, possibly a speed limit decrease. It's an FDOT roadway. I looked through Google Maps and several different plans, and I couldn't find any changes so far on that one. As for 13th Street, Hillsborough Avenue, this intersection is a hotspot for bikes and crashes because there are not marked crossing facilities. And so I've checked, and that intersection remains unsignalized. So that's a very targeted local spot that still needs some improvements. Nebraska Avenue, 31st Avenue to Genesee Street has some fast moving traffic, narrow sidewalks that pass multiple bus stops. But these sidewalks are too cramped for bicyclists and pedestrians to share together. So some possible improvements could include completing and connecting the painted bicycle lanes in both the northbound and the southbound directions. And I looked through it in Google Maps as of 2024, 2025, no sign of new infrastructure there. I also went through the city of Tampa's bike route map. The only relevant project I could find is some FDOT resurfacing in the new transportation improvement program. That resurfacing is scheduled for construction in fiscal year 2028. PG&E for fiscal year 2026. So West Gray Street and North Dill Avenue, this is an unofficial bicycle boulevard that connects downtown by the Cass Cycle track to the West Shore area. But there are numerous conflicts on Gray Street at different intersections. And the intersection of Gray Street and McDill right now doesn't have any controlled crossing. So our proposal was rectangular ramp flashing beacons and medians, which have already been completed nearby on Times Avenue. And this was one that stuck out because there is an ongoing McDill safety resurfacing project with the city of Tampa. I believe there was a public workshop held to discuss potential improvements to this corridor in March of this year. So we might want to keep this one on our radar. Florida Avenue and Waters Avenue, one of Hart's highest ridership routes. BPAC proposed shutting down underutilized driveways that are close to the intersections so that the bus stops could be moved to the far right of the intersection and make better use of available crosswalks. The Hillsborough Capital Improvement Program lists Waters Avenue for resurfacing, but that was really the only relevant detail dig up so far. Hillsborough Avenue, this is a long segment from Dale Mabry to 56th Street. It does not have dedicated bicycle lanes generally, so the BPAC proposed adding marked bicycle lanes, some additional traffic calming measures, and speed management appropriate to the different context classifications on the corridor. And there are various different resurfacing projects listed in the TID. But you could have a whole presentation on this roadway. Kennedy Boulevard and Meridian, BPAC recommended banning right turns on red light enforcement cameras, automatic pedestrian crossing signals, because there is just a frequent failure to stop at the red light when drivers are making right turns onto Kennedy from Meridian here. I could not identify any ongoing projects at this location, and it didn't look like there was anything new. The Zeal Street, this one has seen intensifying traffic volumes alongside multiple developments for crashing for the 6-month period when this list was adopted. So it was definitely concerned with pedestrians, poles as well. BPAC suggested that the city prioritize a traffic calming project on the segment of Steel Street from Henderson to Daily 3. And that would imagine the road died to the west. And I could not find any news on this one.
Yeah.
US 301 in Gibson then has high traffic for non-motorized users, high injury risks that should be mitigated. It was also just included for greater equity because it's in the unincorporated area of the county and we want to capture locations from all over Hillsborough. This was also a case where the committee suggested relocating bus stops closer. As of February 2025, the bus stops are still at the same location, still no bicycle lanes, but I can tell. But it is listed this wide corridor for Vision Zero improvements in the county capital improvement program. There is design and land acquisition scheduled for later this year and construction for late 2026. And there's a fact sheet for that project here that we could dig into a little more if we decide to. And then I think the final location on our list has already seen different projects underway. It's Kennedy Boulevard, North Boulevard. At the time that BPAC adopted this one, there was just limited right of way to the tight turn. Yes, that caused some issues, in particular with vehicles encroaching onto the curb ramp. So BPAC suggested grade separation to keep vehicles away and improve bicycle detection. And there is a project for resurfacing of SR 60 Kennedy in this area in the new transportation improvement program, but that was all I could find so far. So yeah, that's my brief recap. If anyone wants me to go back to a specific location.
Good. Ben, you mentioned there's resurfacing that's going on, I think it was the second or third one on the list. Florida,
Yes. Yeah, Nebraska.
or no, it was Nebraska. That was it. It was Nebraska. And I guess kind of our recommendation was for FDOT to consider green paint.
Yes, yeah.
So one thing is, with that being in fiscal year 28 for construction, they're usually entering design in, which would be most likely 26, which is current year. So I would make the suggestion that we should reach out to Jensen or somebody over at FDOT to see who the project manager is and make sure that that project manager knows kind of the feelings of the committee, in which a future motion or something like that might be helpful.
Yes.
To them, so that they understand what it is we're asking for and for their consideration on the resurfacing project.
Definitely. I've reached out to Jensen about all of these projects and definitely hoping to get a line of communication going there.
Do you have the federal project ID number, that FPID?
But yeah,
That'll be helpful to track, and then eventually it'll make it onto the District 7 website that they have with the project manager and all this. We can get the information off of that.
I will turn that in and send it out.
Yeah, and if you have any of them for any of the FDOT projects, it's really helpful. I think Chris would probably tell you the same thing about the Hillsborough County projects. It's just a good way of getting that information so that we can get to the appropriate person.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ben, thanks for that rundown. The last one on the list was mine, Kennedy and Boulevard. And I do recall that there's a project, I think, starting maybe at Brevard, just east of there and extending west. The other one that I remember I had proposed last year and removed from the list because there was a pending development already to improve the route, and that's from Rome. I believe Rome in particular, after you get from where the bike path ends on Cass, you head south from there on Rome. It's a bit dicey attempting to cross over Kennedy and then Platt and Cleveland, I believe. But in any event, I recall last year that there were pending plans to develop Rome, maybe from a point further north, south. I haven't seen that transpire. I wonder whether that, anybody knows whether that may still be in progress or whether it's something that got tabled for one reason or another. Because if it did, then I'd want to re-add that one to the list on it before it gets close to us.
I don't know the status of it.
Yeah.
I know I get Broman and Boulevard confused in that area, and so I'm trying to visualize it.
Yeah, so it's west, so it was west of Boulevard.
That's right, okay.
Real
Yes,
quick,
it is.
Rome should be part of the West River project,
That's
or
true.
at least parts of that.
That's
God, thanks, Wayne.
That's right.
I just have a couple of things on item 2, which is Hillsborough at 13th. There's a mention of it being a priority for unincorporated Hillsborough County there, which doesn't make sense because that's emphatically in the city. I don't know if that maybe is something for the larger Hillsborough between Dale Mabry and 56th or what, but that location is in the city of Tampa. I'm double checking the CIP viewer here on Waters. I'm pretty certain just from driving there that resurfacing project is complete. But I'm gonna verify that with our database. And I don't have any direct knowledge of updates on the Gibsonton project, but I could look into it. Get back to you.
No, the DOT is doing Gibsonton and 301. No, that's going pretty well. Got an update on that. Maybe they can update us at this committee, then see where the counties, Gibsonton go down from there. No, they're doing the whole intersection, kind of like what they did up at, Bloomingdale, yeah, when they tore up the whole intersection and made it concrete. So, but this one had the bus stops, the sidewalks, and the ADA ramps included. It's supposed to make some changes, but I don't know if to go back and incorporate it, because, you see the design plans as they go, but you never really get to see the finals. So it'd be good to hear from them on where they are.
Yeah. I know that, I mean, away from the intersection back down Gibsonton, we've got grant proposals in for funding assistance on the widening project down there. But I know some of the more concerns about the bus stops and stuff were actually on 301 rather than Gibsonton, which we had
We have some on Gibsonton as you go west on there. The sidewalks are just terrible over there. The drainage is awful. There's no bike lane. There's no sidewalk. So they're supposed to touch some of that before, and sometimes the DOT goes a little past their intersection a little bit and try to adjust that. Let me know. I don't know where the handoff was, but the county picking going on. So.
I mean, I can get a status update. Looking at the CIP viewer website about Waters. This website is notoriously outdated in lots of ways. It shows the project as in procurement, but I know that they started it, and it seems like I have memory of driving on it recently, and it's completed and construction. It said it was on schedule, and construction is supposed to have been completed early 25. So I imagine they are, but I can confirm that. Well,
Does anyone know more about the McDill safety resurfacing project? Because that's another potential opening.
I do not.
Is that the one that Tim was talking about the public meeting for? Or is that a different stretch of it?
There was definitely a public meeting, at least back in March 2025.
Okay, that's probably the one that Tim was talking about that I wasn't able to attend myself.
I attended that one. It's in my neighborhood, so I was keeping an eye on it, but there hasn't been any updates since. And if I'm remembering correctly, It wouldn't be constructed until 2029. I'm looking on the website now and it says that it's still in the planning phase, which makes sense. And it doesn't look like design or procurement and yeah, still not there yet. And I know there's two phases. So there's the one where Gray Street is, that's phase one or segment one, segment two. And that is from Kennedy to Green Street, and then it goes further, Green Street to Columbus, and then it goes south from there as well, another segment. So it's a pretty big project, but I haven't heard of any movement since March.
Well, I reached out to the project manager also.
So, but yeah, so what is the best way? Like, to me, it seems like this should be like a living document that we have like kind of next status and next steps. And that, that getting status probably involves, the collective feedback of this group, but probably more of it's going to come from identifying POCs for each of the projects, getting status updates. And then, depending on the status of these, which could be anything from there's something in, design, planning, implementation, making sure we're all aware of dates of, when they're looking for feedback, public comment, opportunities where they might want to come. Some of them they might be appropriate for them to present, but if they're doing other similar public feedback, they can just notify members of the committee and we can attend that way, right? So there's various ways. So I don't know, or it sounds like you're working on getting contacts and updating status. Is that maybe the next step is keeping, I don't know if this deserves a monthly spot in our status, but I would think at least occasionally as you collect.
Yeah, it seems to be that it's something that I need to keep an ongoing eye on for it to be of any use to the committee. And so
Yeah.
I like the idea of just coming back with a list of dates in each BPAC. For example, to comment on a project, bring in anything to a time window. Maybe that could be something I could aim to do by August.
Yeah, I would encourage you to have like a log of like what things are going on that corridor, if there's anything, because if something pops up, we have that public meeting, you just go, oh, yep, this meeting date was here. We haven't actually gotten any update from the project manager on it. I do like how you have the project website on here, which I think is very helpful. But yeah, if we know about things upcoming, a couple months ago, we were talking about the tip and all the adjustments of how they're looking at the rankings and scoring. It would be great for us to be able to highlight projects that we've been tracking and kind of say, hey, this is important to us to try to promote.
I wonder if an action at the next meeting could be something like identifying 2 or 3 priority projects to do advocacy for. But I suppose that anything on the list could come up.
Yeah, what I guess what I struggle with and would look to everyone's help with is knowing which of these projects advocacy has any chance of being successful, right? Advocacy for things that aren't funded for another decade, probably not the best use of our time. Things that they are actively in design and seeking public comment on, like those should be at the top of the list, right? Those are things we can influence. I don't see a letter from our committee, making money magically appear, right? So we have to look for opportunities where people are asking for input on priorities or input on design. So, specific treatments that are being considered. Those are the things that to me seem most effective.
Yeah, and I recall Tim having mentioned too, I think it was Tim or somebody from the city, that there are certain low-hanging fruit projects that the city was seeking to develop, which don't cost much money, like, for example, the bike lanes on Cass, where for relatively small costs, you have a big impact in terms of safety and access. So, yeah, to the extent that we had visibility as to which of these projects perhaps would have that sort of bang for the buck for the city or otherwise for the county or
Yeah.
the state. Yeah, good to know where our advocacy would bear fruit.
Yes. And I know the city looks for these too, you know, but like, yeah, just like you said, you know, it could be a resurfacing for a stormwater project. They have to put new paint down. Maybe we can influence what that paint looks like, right? And so those are, I agree. And I know Tim looks for those things anyway. But to the degree that, and also I think for all of these POCs, I mentioned some of them are looking for input depending on the phase of their project. And maybe part of it is us asking, how can we help? Like, do you just need people to attend these meetings? Are you looking for letters? Is it something we can make a recommendation to the TPO board to advocate for, right? Maybe that's part of it too, is asking how we can help. Because I'm sure these people want help and they want to have a successful project. John?
Yeah, I was just gonna hit on, so I help scope projects for a different DOT district. And so like with that, that's why I was saying like with the resurfacing project, it's gonna go to a project manager. If there's a request from somebody to add green paint, it's gonna be a conversation with maintenance. It's gonna be a conversation with, you know, do they have the budget, all those kind of type things. But if there's something from us saying we want it here, it would kind of amplify it up on that list, because now's the time that they could add it into a project with it being in design. So being at the right time, or being there at the right time,
Yeah.
is very impactful. And now would be a good time on that project, you know, for that one.
I think the idea of Ben keeping kind of running updates on anything that happens on these projects, trying to make more work for Ben. But I mean, you know, monthly that, you know, we said we were concerned about this, hey, something's moving, and kind of working off this list where we say, we see things coming, this is a project that's going to have public involvement. But I think we should probably also, I think a couple things, that revisiting the list annually might be a good idea, because there might be something where a project happened, or some other location has come up as critical with a lot of stuff. And I think like letters to the agencies that we are aware of safety concerns at these locations. Just stop. You know, we don't have to come up with a specific solution, just to say, you know, as representatives of the public who are concerned about bicycle pedestrian issues, we have noted that there has been, you know, a lot of high profile crashes at this location. And if Hillsborough County got a list, you know, and we said, we know, you know, you've got something in your CIP nearby or whatever, please consider providing whatever resources you can towards this problem. I think that, you know, at the time of year when decisions are made about what projects to add, I mean, because there's a whole lot of projects sitting out there that, you know, we have a budget process and we have the CIP list update every year, that they've got to decide what's going to go on there. And that's just an opportunity. A letter from us is an opportunity to squeak the wheel. And we shouldn't pass those up, you know, no matter how effective or ineffective we feel it'd be. And we don't have money, but we're representative of awareness of a problem that has to carry some weight, you know, that, you know.
Can't hurt.
Right. And I mean, I'm not trying to create more work for my personal coworkers either, but it's worrisome to me that, and it's kind of reflective of the committee. We've got 10 projects here and only one of them is completely in unincorporated county. And there's 0 in Plant City, there's 0 in Temple Terrace. It's like, let's give this county Tampa a list of 9 projects and then throw in this one out of Gibsonton. That's a larger concern, but I think it reflects oddly on the committee, and it's something we might need to think about too.
Yeah, fair point.
And one thing, I know this is almost more for the second conversation, but one thing, you know, I would like for us to aspire to is, hey, there's a bike and ped project in Hillsborough County, they want to come to us to get our feedback on how we can, well, how we would guide them. Because the goal would be to be a committee that's going to help guide them to where they want our involvement. And so I think that's where I would love to take it, where we're going in that direction so that they know to come to us with questions related to these projects.
And I mean, yeah, and I mean, and I know that Abigail, I don't want to speak for her, but she's tracking crashes all the time. And I have various projects where we're tracking crashes. And I mean, there could be some, and again, I would want to talk to her and not create work for her, but you know, annually or biannually say, this is where crashes seem to be heating up or cooling off. And then that would provide information other than just, you know, the individual members knowing about a problem in their neighborhood or on the route they try to ride the bike, which I'm not saying that's totally responsible for our lopsided representation in the city, but I would think that, you know, some of it feels that way. I mean, there's a lot of stuff downtown. That then, you know, we're getting information from the city. If we had kind of more comprehensive and asked for more comprehensive reporting on where the crash issues are, and it's not just whatever the TPO does every 5 years for a big Vision Zero. I mean, I know that they're watching it closely and can report on it, even if it's not part of a huge formal study to name the hotspots. And again, I don't want to speak for Abigail, but I know that her whole job is safety. And she knows where the problems are. And it could probably be a, you know, viewed as a cooperative thing rather than the BPAC saying, you're not doing anything, but like, here's where we're seeing the problems. And then the BPAC can also say, well, based on some of our personal experience and input from them, here's maybe 3 places in the county that we'd really like to have. I mean, that's like my Greenways committee. I mean, we've got this master plan, but every year there's a task of saying, okay, let's pick the 10 projects that are our priority, and we send a memo to Public Works Director saying, Greenways committee like to see these projects move forward. Now, somebody else is, you know, dicing the numbers on the budget, and all of that is going to, the commissioners are going to have to weigh in, but there's just a record there of what the preference of the committee is. But if we do it with consistency, it just becomes an expected part of the process. I don't know everything it would take to orchestrate that, but I think that it'd be good to have dialogue about where the and data about where the challenges are for us to pick from, rather than just anecdotal personal stuff from the committee. Just kind of how it on reflection. I mean, it was a long time ago we did this, but kind of felt that way to me. That it was like, where did you see a problem?
Yeah, no, I agree. And that was actually discussed
Yeah.
during that discussion. It was like pointing out, like, are we limiting our discussion to the places where the 10 of us bike or walk? And I don't know how to avoid that for that type of exercise. Other than, so I think it's a great point, and it was recognized then, and it's still true today. So I think that's completely fair. And this is probably a good segue into our next discussion. John hit the nail on the head, I think, is like, for us to do more than that would require the community looking to this committee as a source of good feedback, to the point that they want to present to us because it makes their projects better. Okay, I'd say, and I've pointed this out, at the beginning of the year, but, my view is that what we do is we listen to status reports, and either we get some information like we didn't know, or we're asked to approve that work that was already done. And that work was always usually done by bright, caring people, but they're not asking for our opinions. Right? If they might get an opinion because we put some caveat in our approval, but and so we had this discussion in a couple of our meetings, and I think, even DPO staff acknowledges, yeah, I think we need to get you involved earlier if we're going to leverage the experience of the group. Otherwise, it is just it's a rubber stamp, which is how it's felt sometimes to me.
Well, I think, and I don't know, I'm just talking off the top of my head here.
Please do. This is a workshop.
But yeah, it's like, I think though that to solve the kind of the anecdotal versus comprehensive problem, I think some of that dialogue with the agencies might be where, rather than waiting for whoever to bring the project they just finished, looking for our stamp of approval, which is kind of what happens, we just kind of get this assembly line of, oh, well, we'll shop this around when we're done.
Yeah.
Or when we're kicking it off and say, oh, we'll come back to you. But to have like request status, more general status reports that can be done, just like, I mean, it's not simple to come up with a safety analysis, but there are high level ones that are simpler than others. But, to, maybe make that invitation to somebody, say, with a 2 or 3 month lead time, say, hey, could you give us an update on crash trends in the area? I mean, I know last month, Lamont talked about the dashboard, the crash dashboard. I work with Lamont, but technically she reports to me. That was developed before I was in that role, and I don't know too much about it or how frequently it's updated or all that kind of stuff. But I mean, that could be, you could do pull-offs of that with enough, if you get more than a week to put together, but it doesn't have to be also the product of a year-long, $200,000 consultant study either. And then the committee would be informed about things that it cares about rather than just reacting to things that people happen to bring to it. But that would require, kind of a cycle of prompts for information with sufficient lead time. And I don't know how,
Well, good point. Well, one is to bring those ideas to Ben, the chair. So it just, people don't know, Ben and I sit down monthly at the beginning of the month, and we do talk about what are good topics. I have ideas. Some of them are original. Most of them are things people have asked me about. And so I bring them Ben, and then he, so we do look for ideas, and it could be months out. Doesn't, it is hard if we say, oh, I heard there's this thing next month. And we're asking somebody to make a report, and just like you acknowledged, right? So there is that. We can, if there's things we are interested in, and I agree, some of these reports will help us guide. I do, and just now remembering that one of the things we did to make sure that it wasn't purely anecdotal, top 10 list, was that we limited it. I think one of the first filters was, is it in the high entry network, right? So at least we filtered it down. So it's not like, where my kids play, but it is a fair point. It's definitely representative of, and if we had presented with more data, we might have prioritized it differently. I think you're right.
And maybe it's my naivete, but I would have assumed that what you described, Chris, in some respects, but the city, that to the extent that there were identified issues and places, that those would have been coming to us as a part of natural course in respect of our involvement, and we would have had that feedback in some other fashion. So, I mean, the point, as I recall, of this exercise was to capture things perhaps that weren't a part of that regular process. And maybe it's a matter of, if the city has that data, the safety data you described, it's not exactly reinventing the wheel to produce that to us on a regular basis as much as it is just sharing it. So that,
I mean, that would require, communication, like, talk to Abigail and I can confirm with Lamont. It's like, what is the sort of thing we could pull off a report of this regularly with, how it's presently set up? Or is there some incremental improvement we could make to be more responsive to this sort of request without, going out and scoping some brand new product? Or is there a need? I mean, we like to engage projects of finding new ways to look at, look at and report the data in ways that are useful to people. But we can't promise instantaneous results. But to know that, I mean, I know that Lamont would jump all over if there was like a request. I mean, we'd have to run it through everything, and that might have a longer lead time. But we want to make sure that we are giving, the public information about conditions here so that people can have information and advocate for whatever, whether they're BPAC or anybody else.
Yeah, and I mean, a couple months ago, once again, kind of going back to the priority projects, the TPO has a list of their Vision Zero projects. We can help track those, help give input on that, help prioritize, try to help them understand the priorities, tell them things that we had, not just at that one meeting, but throughout the year. Because, looking at, they all have FPIDs on them, so it's not, they've got a project manager associated with it. They've got updates, things like that, so that we can try to help make an impact on those projects.
Or, yeah, I mean, or even, I mean, like you said, if we look for the high injury network, but if those Vision Zero projects, they're sitting out there and they're only gonna be funded one at a time, or 3 or 4 at a time, but in some ways you could have an anecdotal review that says, boy, I know a lot of people want to ride on this, and that looks like that's 5 years out, and we're not hearing, or maybe we could try to hear if these other ones are as critical as that. And again, not inventing new projects out of whole cloth, but doing monitoring of project lists and priority lists that were set, 4 or 5 years ago through some data-driven process, but might not be, responding to changes on the ground where, oh my gosh, three crashes happened in the last month, which is a statistical fluke, but nevertheless, people are concerned about it, and it really highlights that there are a lot of people trying to ride out there, and maybe we ought to bring that project up. Just
Right. Yeah, because some of those trends can be changed immediately with the, some new facilities or
Right.
some new construction can change these things exactly. No, those are good points. I do think we've been heard, from TPO staff on the need to involve us earlier if they want
right.
recommendations versus bring us reports. I think that's been heard, and I've heard it from, all the way up to Johnny. So I do expect that we'll see changes in how we're used from tip priorities and Vision Zero projects, and they won't wait till their work which is all good work, is done before they ask us to approve it. So I think that is effective. Have we officially moved on from top 10? I think you have your actions for top 10, right?
Well,
Did you have any questions for?
So I didn't make a motion just yet, but yeah, any questions? I can definitely, make investigating this list a sort of monthly.
See, I think potentially action items fall out of top 10 projects based on the status as they move, right? I don't think there's an action for the committee on the top 10 list today. I think people should be open to the idea of suggesting new projects as we get more data, and actions come when we find out there's that there's a project in a phase where we can actually maybe influence it. And agreed. Does that make sense? So I think the next steps on the status report is incorporating the feedback. I know I saw Ben taking some notes, I took some, but it probably wouldn't hurt for everyone to respond to his note with some specific things just to make sure they make it in there, and then adding kind of a status section. And maybe that's something we put on the agenda. I don't know when when it fits, but in the next few months, to give updates on what we learned, and then maybe start breaking out some things like that. These are things that are actionable now, or some of it is just going to be disseminating information like these.
One question you kind of have for Chris. So at District 1, we've got our bike and ped high crash list that we have. And so is it also worth reaching out to all the agencies to see what they have high crash list wise? You were talking about getting an update on certain locations, but getting their list, almost like step one, is reach out to them, make that connection, get their high crash corridors so that we're then helping provide some input on those locations. That could be a good start, but.
Right, like when we said the high crash corridors, I mean, that's reflecting some TPO study of 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know offhand, but I mean, it could be, again, great work for Abigail, but I mean, just ask her, like, how are you monitoring continually and how could that be shared with us to help? And stuff like that, so that it's not just. So we have data that is coming from multiple sources, and it's not just, oh, well, this is the DOT list, so let's react to this, or this is the MPO's study from a couple of years ago. Although that was another thought I had, is that a lot of times when you provide, throughout my career, I know, you work on a bike plan for a year or two, you get it adopted, it's got a project list and a priority list. And then staff knows to kind of pull off that as opportunities come and they use it to make decisions. But your stakeholders don't hear about it again until you go to update that. And then you have like one meeting where like, okay, well, this is the list from last time. And we did this whole new, data approach to identify needs this time. And this is our new list. And it seems like it would be useful for like an advocacy group to have a periodic update on that. And also could say, like times have changed. Oh, well, there's this new development went in at this place and there's tons of kids in the neighborhood now. And maybe this place that was on the low tier could be brought up, or this place that was on the high tier, something happened that maybe it shouldn't be as important anymore. Or at least you've had those discussions before you get this really, quick presentation that showed up on the agenda to approve or not. You have a continuing conversation with the document of the plan through its life and not just, at its 5-year update or something like that.
Yeah.
And that way you have a list like this one that we're like, oh, boy, that was important last year, but it doesn't feel important this year. Those kind of conversations.
I agree. No, I definitely agree with revisiting the list and not,
And asking what the kind of equivalent list the agencies already have that they're working from.
Yeah.
And reacting to those so that if they go to update them, or if there's overlap with yours. And I think having those letters on file too would be important, just to say, I don't know what happened if we shared this beyond it kind of being entered into the record here, which then gets reported to the TPO board, like, oh, Harmony would read off that the committee met and made this decision and it's in the record. And the TPO board heard that you created this list. Well, does anybody at City of Tampa know that they've got 9 spots on your hotspot list, from that or not? So it seems like there could be an extra step. And I don't know if we're allowed to, is the committee allowed to communicate?
Yeah.
Other than through the board?
Only for the board.
But
of course, we can
what happens
communicate
with that
as
is
we can all communicate as citizens. We can all
Yeah,
bring
right.
these ideas, but yeah, no, we
But
can't.
to put something on file where Tampa's like, oh, again, squeak the wheel to an audience that can actually do something about it.
Right. Well, and I think that's you hit on another thing that I think is important, is that we do close the loop, that when we do vote on actions, that are they accepted by, we've had a couple this year that I have no idea if they went before the board, if the board discussed them, if any action was taken, right? There were recommendations. It'd be good to close those feedback loops, because sometimes that'll happen. That's the normal course of business. But sometimes we can say, okay, this isn't the right avenue for whatever reason, and maybe we choose to find another.
It seems like it's taken as information by the board and whatever they're doing, but it doesn't rise much higher than that.
Yeah.
For good or ill. It's just kind of.
But there are, right, as you said, there's other organizations, there's other agencies that are outside the county, not just the city.
Well, if I may,
Please.
on the board, you do have elected officials from each of the jurisdictions. Ultimately, they're the ones that make the decision, not just for the TPO board, but for their specific jurisdictions on the budget, on these development projects, on where, funding should go. So, that's probably the most direct line you can get. At being as the committee, we're one step from them, 1 degree of separation. So I think there might be something there. I don't know, Ben, I don't know if Wade's still online. Where maybe it is, let's say we do update this list, hypothetically. that's something that maybe Harmony can include, that specifically BPAC updated this list. This is some, provide a little bit of history and just name off the intersections. Provide that as part of the record, provide that as part of the packet for that meeting for the TPO as an informational thing, and kind of leave it in the hands of the elected officials. And if they so want to move forward with that or find out more, I mean, they have it, they have the information. And
No, that's a very good, right, this stuff
Yeah.
does go on the record. It's reviewed by people who, even if the board doesn't act as body, it's reaching people who,
the information is
the
there.
information is reaching people who.
I don't know, and, I don't know all the rules of what goes before the board, but I'm tasked with watching those meetings every week, every month, and creating a memo for county staff about anything important to the county that transpired. But, and Harmony does a great job, but she's reporting on like 4 committees at once. And she does it very efficiently and faithfully to the thing. But the chair of the CAC himself delivers that, Rick Fernandez. And I don't know if that's, a special case for him, or if, they've got they keep a tight lid on the other committees or not. But he gets a lot of face time then with the board, and he can kind of color, as the chair of that committee, he kind of colors, carries the weight of their actions a little more than Harmony really can, as a staff member who's, reading a report. She gets, oh, they really meant this, and it's really, it wouldn't be okay for her to color it in any way, but the chair speaks as the chair, then it's a different, and I don't know if there's an opportunity for that for you, Dave, to be the face more out there or not. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm happy
But-
to explore that too. I'd be happy
But
to.
it just thinking about what happens with committee actions when they get to the board, it's businesslike, and it's professional, but it doesn't carry a lot of emotional weight, to the board.
I wonder if
Anyway.
incorporating quantitative data into those reports could be some interest in the committee. For example, DPO has access to this database of crashes. It's very comprehensive, Signal 4, it's up to date. But for example, if you asked me, for example, to run an analysis on an intersection on this list and incorporate a number of how many crashes there have been in the past year, that could be something you can do.
Or like seeing if in the time where these have been identified as needs, just to know, well, the crashes continue while the project is sitting there waiting to happen. Rather, because all of this is based, whatever analysis was done was like, okay, well, this was a high crash quarter in 2022 when that study was done and this project was identified. But knowing that, knowing that isn't enough and it doesn't stop the crashes that happen in the meantime, that might be interesting to see too.
And just kind of chiming into that, if you were to come to me and say, this is on DOT's number 18 on their list, it's number 2 on City of Tampa's list, it's on the high injury network, it's gonna add weight to the importance and the funding and getting the ball rolling, with those items. So that's kind of why I was like, grab everybody's list so that you're kind of getting the priority.
That's a classic, line on a grant application. How many lists can you name this thing that shows up on? I joke with people I work with, it's like planning is really just the art of making a new list that's highlighted slightly differently than the 3 lists you compiled from.
Don't forget the highlighted maps.
Yeah, right. Which list are we talking about again?
Okay, is there anything else, Ben, that you wanted to
Not that-
get out of the top 10 discussion? I think it's been a really good discussion. I think we kind of are starting to see it take some direction. I think to start it off, I think it was your idea originally, and it wasn't clear when we started it where it was going. And so I think it's nice to watch it take some shape where we actually can influence some of
And I
the
think-
outcomes.
I think shifting to stuff like that where committee puts itself further towards the front of a problem rather than reacting to, because I mean, even at that point, by the time a project comes to us with, asking for our recommendation for the board to approve it, we would have to pitch a really big fight to get something not approved. I mean, other than, oh, well, they missed this one analysis and noted for the record.
Yeah.
But to like really get it derailed, and I mean, that's just acrimonious anyway, and maybe bad strategy, but it would have to be something substantial to really change something like that. And, it could be read into the record that we were sad that something fell off the list or whatever. But, and I think the planners too, who worked on it, would feel better saying, yes, we incorporated, the BPAC came to us with this problem at the front end and we helped them address it. You feel like you're doing a project that came from the public in some representative fashion rather than just dreamed up in the head of a planner. That helps sell the thing to be adopted at the end too.
Yeah, I mean, one thing you're always looking for is public input on a project. And if they can come to us and get 15 people's opinion in one go around, that's about as good as you'll get at some public meetings sometime that they spend a ton more money at. And so it's a good opportunity to try to kind of show the value.
And a lot of times when you go do a public input event, you're really trying to get validation that you guessed the problem correctly, right? It's like, okay, well, this is our scope, and does this reflect a concern of yours? I hope it does, because we're 3/4 of the way into the study. But if you can say this study was initiated because BPAC came to us with a problem that they've been watching, or we moved this project up because BPAC, that's public input that's already baked in when the project starts.
Yeah. Agreed. No, thank you. So with that, and in the interest of time, and we've already touched on some of this branding and outreach, or at least kind of the goals are. But I'd say to start, so a lot of this discussion is, partly, what do we want to be, but that's also what does the TPO board and staff want us to be. And what we're saying is we're hopeful that it's more a group that's consulted early when we can influence outcomes rather than asking us to approve work or give us status updates. And I think you can leverage a lot of experience from this group, both people that are in this work professionally, but also people that are just users. And I think that's one of the best things about this committee, because a lot of these agencies that are doing this work do have access to planners and the NACDO guidelines, and they can read these things and make good decisions, but maybe they're not using active transportation specifically in our area. And that's what we want, is the people that can provide kind of the feedback of what we see, what are the challenges in this area. So one of the challenges, as we all know, is having quorum. I think we've had quorum once this year. So we started doing a little analysis. The big problem we have is vacancies. I touched on this at the beginning. If overall we're in the 35 to 40 kind of % in-person attendance, if you exclude the vacancies, it only brings us up to just over 50. But we have with 20. So the bylaws have us at 25 members. Our quorum is set at 9. In-person attendees. So the breakup of the 25 is 13 are filled by, I guess, agencies, but, including things like USF Cutter, but there's 13, I'll call them agency members. And then there's 12 citizen members, makes up the balance of it. We currently have 2 vacancies so the city of Tampa has 3 spots. Interestingly, I think our citizens all are in the city of Tampa, which is the problem that Christopher was pointing out. But the only 2 vacancies we have in the agencies are city of Tampa. It just says 3 city of Tampa members. It doesn't say what department they're in or anything like that. So mobility, as we know, has been historically filled, was filled by Tim, and now John has attended the past 2 meetings after Tim stepped down. Ben and I've had some conversations about kind of what makes sense. I think Parks and Rec would be a good place to fill the other spot. But he's struggled to get in touch with them. If anyone knows anyone in Parks and Rec, then I can explore that.
I mean, I can share, we've got a similar challenge on the Greenways Committee. For the long time, we had a representative of Parks and Rec, and then she retired, and we haven't had it. It's been over 2 years since we've had anyone, and mobility has had so much turnover that we don't even know where to start. But now, Adam Purcell is there, and I've spoken to him, and said we really need someone, and he's reached out to Parks on my behalf because I don't know who's at Parks either, because Carla Price was a long time, person there, and whoever took her place isn't someone who's kind of networked in the same way. And I haven't just picked up the phone and gone through the whole org chart either. But anyhow, they've made it. I was told by Adam that they've made a decision that they want to send someone from Parks to be the reps of the Greenway Committee, but maybe that means they can spare somebody for mobility for this committee.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah. So there's 2 City of Tampa positions that are unfilled, and Ben has struggled to find contacts for them. So but there are 5 citizen at large positions that are open. I think we had 1 applicant.
We have 2 at this point.
Okay, so I've talked to 2 other people that said they're going to be applying, so maybe one of those is that. But before we even start, Brent had a good comment about surveying people that with lower attendance about what are the reasons, because the solution we choose may be dependent on that's absolutely the right approach, is to not just assume that free pizza is going to bring more people to the meetings, because it probably isn't. So that's part of it. But I think just making more people aware. I mean, I lived here for 25 years, and 4 years ago, I'd never heard of the MPO. Right. So I think part of it is just reaching out to more groups. So I've started assembling a list of everyone to maybe Ben or I can send out a formal request for these, but just send out lists and POCs. I think we start just very simply, and this could be anything. This could be like a neighborhood dog walking club. It could be there's various cycling clubs. It could be agencies. It could be, I know there's different committees, transportation related, that are affiliated with FDOT and Brent is on Temple Chase is BPAC, right? So just start with kind of an awareness, like, hey, this is what, who we are, or, do you have, educate them. Do you have a membership list that you're willing to pass along? I don't know, our last meeting minutes or our schedule or our website or something to just spread the word that we're looking for members, but also we are a source of information. If you work on projects and want feedback, if your group has opinions but doesn't feel they have, doesn't understand what the avenue is to get that into public works, we can, those kinds of things. It's just start with that. I don't know that we want to maintain this. Well, I think to some degree, it would be nice if we could get some of these groups to if they're interested, to get our monthly agenda packets. They'll be aware of meetings, they'll be aware of the topics that are presented, they'll be aware of membership openings. So that, and I hope this is kind of a 2-way thing. So that's one idea that I think is just kind of low-hanging fruit. And then, Ben, I know you've had some others more kind of attending events, so maybe I'll let you share some of your thoughts on that. Like a presence when some of them were already mentioned, like being at the Gasparilla rodeo and things like that.
Yeah, I didn't have a list off the top of my head, but I definitely think it's best to start with that, even if it's not formal per se. It could be something that we just bring up at meetings.
So other ideas, yeah. Just kind of brainstorming.
So I know the city of Tampa has a neighborhood, they got neighborhood president and all that. They've got a list of all. I don't know, does the county have anything? I don't know, Chris, if you know about that, but
it's where we could reach out to them to try to get more county participation.
I don't know that the specific, we've worked through the neighborhood relations department and see what their contact list is. I mean, it gets into, I don't think you have like the formal kind of neighborhood councils that the city might have, but probably that end up going to HOA associations and stuff like that as you get further out in the unincorporated area. But I can check with neighborhood relations about what sort of outreach they have to people who are already inclined to be involved in community efforts.
I mean, and this could go anywhere, right? Like I'm thinking I know some of these, like, when I lived in South Tampa, we had a neighborhood newsletter. I think some of these people are desperate for content, like what's going on, and so they might be willing to, get on the BPAC mailing list. If nothing else, just to filter through and say, one of the agenda items is in, Batesville Beautiful. And so we're going to put that in our newsletter, right? That it could be that. It could be individuals that in those groups that say, well, maybe it's not interesting to my group, or we don't have anybody that's curating information, but me as a member, I'm interested as a citizen. So those are kind of my thoughts there. But yeah, I didn't think of neighborhood associations. That makes a ton of sense. But I don't want all this to be two-way. I don't want us to be like shamelessly, begging for members, because that's, people are going to come because they get something out of it. So we're either going to say, hey, look, we have this information to provide, and we can also be a resource for you if you want to, help in advocating for a project. So that's kind of how I view those interactions going. So we will send. So look for a solicitation from Ben for just names. And at this point, we're not going to start spamming people and adding the mailing list. We're just gonna but if you have points of contact, if you're willing for us to reach out to them, let us know. If you're not, but you want to be the vehicle for that, that's fine too.
I wonder if bicycle shops could be. Touch that on already. I have late night.
Yeah, I know a couple of the riding groups, and some of them are affiliated with shops, but that's a good idea. Just shops themselves, even the shop owners, and they'll consent it to those types of people are well connected to.
It could be as simple as, hey, can we put this flyer in your shop? And it's a very simple flyer that has the website, where you can get the agenda. And then you can also say we're looking for members to kind of let people, at their own pace, check us out.
Yeah.
It's there.
I think anything, that's a great idea. And I think those are the kind of things we should be thinking about. And again, we don't, we don't want people to sign up if they're not, they don't have the time to participate. That doesn't help anybody. One of the things I've been doing is I've been talking to a lot of, people, and I think I've got 3 people who, through them or people they knew are genuinely interested. And I've encouraged all of them just come to attend a meeting first. If you're nervous about what you're signing up for, come attend a meeting and decide if that's for you. But yeah, I think these are good. I think identifying events. I mean, I don't think we have, a budget to get booths at trade shows or for gas grill or anything like that. But I think some things they are looking for volunteers. They might give us a table where where that says BPAC. And again, some of the things like the mayor's bike to work day are things that people probably would, that we probably know most of the people at the event on those, but there might be some where we can reach out. I don't think that's always the most effective way, but if it's easy, if we're there volunteering anyway, then it makes sense for us to man a table. I think we could, that might be helpful.
And keep in mind, the TPO does a lot of those kind of events too, where they're participating. We could help them out with
That's
trying
good
to have a table or man a table for them to be BPAC members.
Yep.
That could help them out while spreading our message. Something like a safety summit, like the Gulf Coast Safe Street Summits, things like that.
Yep.
Good opportunity.
There's going to be a BPAC table somewhere, and we're going to have BPAC flyers. And do we need a BPAC logo?
Is there a BPAC logo? I don't
There
know.
was in the past, and I downloaded and I can pull it up if you all want to see it. It's from 2002, 2006, if I recall. But there are other committees, other BPACs, at different MPOs or local governments as well that have logos we can draw on.
Does the TP have rules about branding, about, you know, we have to use their logo?
I mean, I
know when I was in a neighborhood on the CAC, like we couldn't just have our own logo, for the CRA, Citizen Advisory Committees.
it's my understanding that it would be allowed, you could look into it, but, yeah. Don't
That's
quote
her
me.
hand up.
What's that?
Gail,
We have a community relations department that can help do a logo potentially, and that would be Harmony. And then she knows the parameters of what we can and can't do. And if we need to get something approved by the board, that would probably be your best option.
that makes sense. Well, it has happened in the past. If I want, you can pull out different examples. You could do that, but we could just brainstorm a bit as well.
Yeah, I don't have strong opinions. I don't think like a lack of a logo is affecting attendance or membership. I think if we start having some success, or we have some regular engagement, then yeah, maybe something like that would be fun.
Yeah,
I'd love to have a BPAC t-shirt and whatever logo you pick.
yeah, forgive me if that's overkill. I just like graphic design. So
And no, it's fun, and I just want, I have no objections. I'll contribute nothing to this, other than I'll wear the shirt. If this one, I probably have to pay for it, and I'll pay for the shirt too. But yeah, I don't think that is, and like in the CACs wanted that in the CRAs because they want to kind of, there are signs that are put up in the neighborhood, and they want some neighborhood identity and stuff like that. I don't think we have that dynamic in what we do. And any event we attended would probably be part of kind of a TPO table, as John said, more than that. But yeah, I hope we get to the point where we have so much activity that that we want to do our own branding. I think that's fun.
I've read, I think, before that when you're trying to recruit somebody to do something, obviously just handing them a leaflet with an image on it can actually be pretty alienating because they'll just take it and throw it in the trash.
Yeah.
And be done with it. There has to be that one-to-one interaction and an ask that comes with it. And if you do have that, then having a logo or a graphic or a flyer can be really helpful. But maybe you're right that we have to think about what the ask is and just how to frame it first. Yeah, come up with that lineup of events.
That makes sense. Okay, well, this was an open-ended topic. Are there any other ideas or related things? So I think we'll move forward kind of with this outreach approach, but again, we'll frame it as a two-way. We're here to help you. And if you have people that are interested, we don't even necessarily have to, we can mention openings on the committee, but I think that'll come naturally when people say, oh, what is this group? That's something, and that's actually the feedback I've even, the people I've talked to, who were kind of talking with their friend groups, and so they want to get information from me because they don't want me spamming their friends, and I understand all that, right? So, and some of them have come back with questions, and but yeah, most of them had no idea this existed, and they like the idea.
Do we have an FAQ, like sheet?
I'm not aware of one.
I've been putting one together informally to answer people's questions. There's not even a link. There's not even a URL to the BPAC, because to get information on the BPAC, you have to go to the TPO board page, and then there's a tab for committees. So I have to send people a URL and say, oh, and scroll halfway down and click this. So that, that may help at some point. That's a whole TPO website. I'm sure we're not gonna.
If you get a flyer, get a QR code, people just scan their phone, it takes you right to the link.
But this QR code will have to be accompanied with some text that says scroll down. Yeah, once we have a link, the QR code works. Today, there's no link that ends in
Get the
BPAC.
link straight to the BPAC, right?
That might be something to talk to Chris about, our webmaster. To maybe see if there's a way to do that without causing the whole
Too much
website.
disruption. Yeah. Yeah, that would be helpful. I found, and I didn't even realize this until the past, until 2 weeks ago when I started kind of fielding these questions and people are saying, what is it? How often you meet? What, it's those basic kind of questions. What do you do? What's your mission? And I don't want to, I'd rather point people to stuff. Somebody has, smarter than me has written the stuff down already. So I don't, copy and paste stuff. I can just send them a link. But it was harder than I expected. Similarly, yeah, an FAQ, something like that is, like I said, I've been building up this list of things. How often do we meet? Because it's just scattered out, right? You say, well, you go read the bylaws, they're here, that explains the makeup of the committee. You go to this page and it has all the agendas, but there's nothing that says we meet the fourth Thursday, or, they have to go down and say, oh, it's like the fourth Thursday, like they'd have to read the agenda pages, which are sprinkled in with all the other committees. So something like that would be helpful. Yeah, maybe if that's something you can explore, yeah, kind of, what are some options? Just make it easier to get information.
And if you need to sell it, you could say we could do this for the other committees as well.
There's a rising tide lifts all ships.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, that's it. Is there any other business anyone that people would like to discuss?
BPAC mascot, that's our spirit.
I like it. Okay, well, being none, we're adjourned. I really appreciate this discussion this evening. Sorry when we longer. Yeah, I'm grateful, and I think I see some real progress here. So, thanks. Still raining? Does anybody know?
Almost 2 whole pizzas here.
What's that?
Almost 2 whole pizzas.
I will grab a slice on my way out. Down for you at. Yes, I thought I saw it there.